This week in the Florida House, we continued our mission to serve and protect the people of Florida. As you just observed, as we came out of the session for the day, we passed 5 bills off the floor today. But over the course of this third week of session, we've also advanced several important policy proposals through the committee process. These include a bill to hold big tech accountable for their unpublished and inconsistent standards for censoring, banning, and deplatforming. That bill was bipartisan. 2 Democrats joined with the majority to pass the bill 19-8 out of appropriations. Representative Cheney's bill to incentivize homeowners and local governments to mitigate the risks of flooding in their homes. This is an idea that actually came to us from the property appraiser in Pinellas County, who we chatted with him, Mike Twitty, about the idea of allowing people to improve their homes but not have that cost, which of course raises the value of their home, be taxable. So this was encourage them, hey, make those changes to your home and you won't be taxed on it. And then Representative Persons Maleka, Schoaf, and Fabricio and Mariano's legislation, which is part of our Accountability Now agenda to ensure adequate fiscal controls and accountability measures on state contracting, quasi-public entities, and numerous boards and commissions. Finally, Chair Grawl and Representative Beltran's bills that force the disclosure of foreign donations, both in higher education as well as state agencies, to combat corporate espionage throughout Florida. I'm proud of all the work this week, both the work we did on the floor and the work that the members did through committee. We'll continue that progress in the weeks ahead. With that, I'll take your questions.
Senate President is hopeful that you'll take up the Senate version of the COVID bill and pass it out next week. Are you good with their bill, or are you still wanting to pursue?
We think it's a great product. We've worked closely with our Senate partners, both on the business liability bill that we rolled out together, as well as healthcare liability. We anticipate picking up that bill and passing it and getting it to the governor's desk as soon as possible.
No amendments, no changes?
Picking it up and passing it.
Why are you willing to come to them on some of their positions, including not sunsetting it or having different standards that they're
We had different starting points. We had I think exactly the same starting point on business liability. On healthcare, we try to achieve the same goal on very, very different ways. As we announced the other day, they have made some amendments based on our negotiations. So this was a negotiated product with the Senate. The amendments that they did in their healthcare bill were things that we chatted about, we came to an agreement on. The idea was from the very, very beginning, both President Simpson and I had promised Floridians, business owners, folks in the healthcare industry that this was going to be a priority. I made a commitment to pass it off the House floor, the business liability piece, on week 1. We made a joint commitment to get this done, to get it to the governor's desk early so that we can provide this protection as soon as possible to these individuals so they don't have to wait. That meant a lot of upfront work from both chambers and both of our members, which was done on business very early. Healthcare was a little trickier. It took us a little bit longer, but now we're there and we anticipate getting it to the governor ASAP.
So we anticipate is not we will. Like, will you pass it as it is?
We have 120 members, Christine. It'll be on the House floor. I anticipate that it will pass.
It's usually one of those bills that gets a lot of attention from the lobbying corps. There's many people, just nobody's here. Do you think that has made it easier for you to pass heavier lifts like bills like this?
No, I think work makes it easier to pass heavy lifts like this. And I think that, I'd commend our partners in the Senate who have been engaged with us robustly on this topic over a course of many, many weeks. This is something that started, prior to the beginning of session, early in committee weeks. This has been a lot of work to get to this place. People have advocated, they have called, they have done Zooms, they've done limited meetings on a variety of issues. I think what you're seeing, Mary Ellen, is the fact that rather than say come to the Capitol and storm the Capitol, we've reached out and had to be proactive. I think that has changed. So we had to reach out to the hospital CEOs to figure out what it was that was going on in the liability space. We had to reach out to the business owners and speak to them. So it was a mixture of us doing the work, reaching out to the business community, the healthcare community, to make sure that what we were doing made sense.
Do you feel that a nursing home, if they mixed and matched COVID patients with those who didn't have COVID and didn't provide PPE, did a lot of disregard of common protocol, can they still be sued?
Look, under the bill, they're protected for the patients who had COVID. They receive the additional protections for patients who actually had COVID. They receive protections for things like the hospitals would do, which would be putting off a procedure. Maybe somebody has to leave a nursing home to go to a hospital, but they can't set an appointment because nobody has bed space. So the same protections that exist for a hospital exist for a nursing home. They're the same. There's no special thing that is in there that is different for them. John, than what the hospitals have. So, there wouldn't be a different, analysis to go through. The protections are the same.
The governor today said he opposed businesses, that COVID passports would be off the table for the state, but also that he, for private businesses, he thought that would not be a private decision and that the state would not tolerate private businesses requiring COVID passports for their customers. Are you okay with the state telling private businesses that they can't require their customers to show them a passport showing that they're vaccinated or?
I think that we are not requiring anyone to do anything. I think one of the things that has been missed, and I know I brought this up before in one of our gaggles, is the fact that, business owners are doing a lot out there in order to, protections that have nothing to do with government. And this happened before the shutdown. I know I gave the example a couple weeks ago about Pinellas County had done the 4,500 business checks, and they found that 90-some% of the businesses before the lockdowns were complying with CDC guidelines. I think that's a shocking number. And I think what it shows is a philosophy that we have in the majority party, which is that government doesn't need to constantly be dictating, what people are doing, that they're going to make the right protocols. I think the purpose is that, business owners are doing the right thing. That's why we passed the business liability bill to say, if you're trying to do the right thing through the best of your ability, you're going to have additional protections. I think they were doing the right thing before. I think they were doing the right thing during, and I think in large part they're doing the right thing now.
Think that a business owner should be able to tell a customer that they don't want to serve them if they can't show it.
I think that's totally and wholly unreasonable based on what's happening out there, in the world. I think that businesses have required a number of things that comply with CDC guidelines. I do not believe that is something that the CDC is even calling for. So I have not seen a business. I'm sure there's one out there, Christine, who might be asking for that, but I have not had a single business owner who's reached out to me who said we are in dire need of doing, COVID vaccine passports.
So the governor's resilient Florida idea,
Yeah.
you heard this week that he wants to double the money, make it $2 billion. So he still wants, he wants to use stimulus for $1 billion, but he still does want to go the bonding for the other billion. Is that something that's going to get through the House? Is that okay?
Well, look, we're gonna look at all the budget stuff. Bonding is something that tends to make me queasy. But we're going to look at all of the items that have been recommended by the governor, desires from the Senate. But I think the important takeaway for me, anyway, looking at the governor's recommendations, is the commonality that we have. Obviously, the governor has placed a premium on resiliency. The House has placed a premium on that as well. As you all know, we rolled out a bill several weeks ago to protect our community from threats of sea level rise, issues with coastal flooding. We rolled out a package of 3 bills, the largest of which is carried by Representative Demi Busada Cabrera from Miami, which has a robust process for local governments to vet projects, to have a planning and thoughtful look at what we need in our communities to protect our communities from coastal flooding. Similarly to what we do in our DOT work plan, that it's vetted. That also allows them to be eligible for a 1-to-1 match to get those projects funded. We've committed to do at least $100 million in the budget in order to, per year to work on that. So that was a huge part of it. You also, I mentioned before, Representative Cheney's bill dealing with homeowners. And then lastly, I think it's worth noting on that resiliency front, Speaker Pro Tem Avila, Senator Manny Diaz have a bill that allows local governments to use the non-marketing side of the House on the TDT tax to fund, flooding projects as well, to try to free up some of those dollars for the local governments to deal with those issues. I was also really encouraged by the governor's recommendation dealing with an emergency response fund. That is something that I've talked about since my designation, that was something that we wanted to do in the House. We have a bill that is moving. Representative Jerry Williamson has that bill to create that fund. And the idea behind that, which the governor, I believe is very supportive of, is to have that robustly funded so that in a state of emergency, of course, at the time we were anticipating hurricanes, not this, but in any state of emergency, that would be a fund that we have immediate access to. That's what it's for. And that would help us because there's been massive delays, of course, in the past by FEMA reimbursement, so it allows us to be a little bit more fiscally sound.
Can you talk to me about whether or not you support giving Jeff Soper a gaming permit in Miami Beach, and whether or not you think having him portability would be constitutional?
No, I can't say that, and here's why. You all have asked about gaming conversations in the past, And I understand that whether you're the Miami Herald or the Tampa Bay Times, there's going to be particular gaming issues that are particular to certain people in certain communities. The reality is, every time I think of gaming, I think of that song that you sang when you were a kid, when you were learning about the human body, you know, the foot bone's connected to the knee bone. It's all connected together. So to have a conversation about portability in Broward, which I understand is very important to some people, it is, you know, despite articles, Mary Ellen, it's not something that takes up a bulk of the conversations that are happening. Could I finish? Thank you. So, you know, the issue here in the legislature with gaming is wildly complex. I have been, in the time that I have been here, I've had conversations on gaming on every facet, whether it is somebody about portability in Broward, Miami-Dade, whether it is every single issue you could possibly think of. That has happened for 6 years. You all remember in that period of time, we have passed the grand total of 0 gaming bills, in large part because it seems to be the third rail of the legislature. Right? Nobody can agree on anything. All of those things are interconnected, and everyone wants to have a separate, distinct conversation about the thing that they care about. And while I understand that, what Senate President Simpson and I are doing is having a conversation holistically about gaming. You know, he has an interest in, you know, having a reasonable deal to the extent that there is one in the compact. What I have said from the very, very beginning is that I will listen, that I am open to something that makes sense for the state. But I'm not going to have individual conversations about gaming that are siloed from the rest.
Mr. Speaker, you mentioned Representative Avala's bill and allowing some of the TDC money to be spent on environmental stuff. The tourism industry has jealously guarded that, in the past, as I'm sure you know. Do you get a sense that it is either has changed or that will carry the day this year? I mean, given what the industry is.
No, listen, it's a good question. I don't know if their position has changed. I haven't asked them, to be candid. My guess is it probably hasn't, right? So, but, you know, with great respect, and those are, you know, folks that, you know, obviously I have a lot of hoteliers. I'm from Pinellas County. We're a coastal community. We have a lot of hoteliers, a lot of people in the tourist industry. But what I have always said to folks, whether they're up here or local, is that, you know, people want to come here for a reason. They want to come here because our beaches are beautiful, our sunshine, it's a great place to visit. You know, nobody wants to go to a hotel that's underwater. You know, nobody wants to go stay in a community that's flooding. Nobody can go walk on a boardwalk if there's no dry ground to walk on. So, you know, we have to make these investments. And the idea is, you know, if we were saying, hey, we want to raid the whole TDT tax money to pay for this, that of course would be totally unreasonable. I think what we're trying to do is, whether it is as small as the individual homeowner who's making an improvement to their house, whether it is as macro as the state saying we're going to make significant financial investments to match the locals, this is going to take kind of a little bit of everybody in order to tackle this problem, because it is darn near insurmountable, and if we don't get ahead of it in a really, really big way, and all of us, from the state to the locals, have major skin in the game, then Florida is not going to be the kind of place we want it to be in 30 years. And I've made it very clear, and the House has made it very clear, we're not willing to make that happen. Thank you all. Appreciate it.